Mitchelle Blair. Mitchelle Blair was born in 1979 in Detroit, Michigan. Mitchelle struggled throughout her childhood and was reportedly abused as a youngster. As Mitchelle grew into adulthood, her life was often unstable. She didn't have the best of relationship with her family. However, she did engage with several different romantic relationships, which produced 4 children of her own. Mitchelle struggled as a single mother, often asking family and friends for money. The fathers of her children was mostly absent from their lives. She faced over a dozen evictions and often spent nights sleeping on friends or family couches with her children. From the outside looking in, Mitchelle's story seemed a lot similar to over a dozen single moms that have experienced the same circumstances. However, a closer look would entail something more sinister going on. In 2015, then 35-year-old Mitchelle Blair was living on the east side of Detroit, Michigan, when her and her 4 children were evicted for not paying rent. She was unemployed and had been struggling financially. When the eviction crew from the 36th District Court showed up at Mitchelle's home on the morning of March 24, 2015, she wasn't there. So the crew went inside and began removing furniture from the home. But when they went to move her freezer, they stumbled upon a horrifying discovery that would send shockwaves through the destroyed community. When the Wayne County Sheriff Department plaintiff opened a wide, deep freezer located in Mitchelle Blair's living room, they discovered the frozen body of a teenage girl, wrapped in a large plastic bag, and buried beneath her was another body, a young boy wrapped in a blanket. A neighbor didn't waste any time disclosing Mitchelle Blair's whereabouts. Police soon found her at another neighbor's house with 2 of her children, aged 8 and 17. But her other children, Stephen Cave Barry and Stony Ann Blair, were missing. After some brief questioning, Mitchelle Blair confessed to killing the children and stuffing them in her freezer. As she was being handcuffed, she reportedly told the police that she wasn't evil. It was just an evil act, she said, according to news reports. Meanwhile, authorities took the bodies to the morgue, where they had to thaw for 3 days before an autopsy could be performed. The bodies are identified as Stephen Barry and Stony Blair. The medical examiner ruled their death homicide, naming blunt force trauma as their cause of death. The medical examiner also ruled that terminal injuries had contributed to Stephen's death. It was determined that Stephen was killed in August 2012 at the age of 9 and Stony was killed in May 2013 at the age of 13. They had been in the freezer for over 2 years. Mitchelle Blair confessed to the murder at the Wayne County Circuit Court according to court records. She told Judge Dana Hathaway that she killed the demons after finding out they were sexually abusing her youngest son, a claim that has never been substantiated. Blair said that one day in August 2012, she walked into a room of her Detroit home to find her youngest son stimulating sexual activity using toys. Horrified, Blair asked him if anyone had ever touched him that way. The boy allegedly told her that his 9-year-old brother Stephen had. Blair stormed into Stephen's room in a rage. After Stephen allegedly confessed to sexually abusing his younger brother, Blair immediately began punching and kicking him. She said she continued to torture her son over a period of about 2 weeks, starving him, making him drink Windex, asphyxiated him with a plastic bag, and repeatedly pouring scalding hot water on his genitals, causing his skin to peel off. At one point, she wrapped a belt around his neck, lifted him up, and asked, "Do you like how this feels?" Blair lifted Stephen off the ground by holding onto the ends of the belt while the belt was still wrapped around Stephen's neck. Mitchelle used forced flex bags to put over Stephen's nose and mouth, suffocating Stephen until he lost consciousness. Mitchelle then slapped him awake. Stephen succumbed to his injuries on August 30, 2012 after finding him unresponsive in a puddle of vomit. Mitchelle wrapped his body in a blanket and hid him in her freezer, stating in a petition to terminate Mitchelle's parental rights to her 2 surviving children. 9 months after murdering Stephen, Mitchelle claimed she found out that her 13-year-old daughter Stony was also raping her youngest son. Blair repeatedly asked the boy if Stoney had abused him, he repeatedly said no, until Mitchelle threatened to beat him if he didn't tell the truth. Mitchelle began starving Stoney and brutally torturing her until she died in May 2013, according to the petition. Blair had punched Stoney in the face a lot, beaten her with a 2x4, asphyxiating her with a garbage bag until she lost consciousness. Later, Mitchelle would claim that while killing Stephen was an accident, she had meant to kill Stoney. "I don't feel no remorse for the death of them demons," she later said. "At first, I cried, but I would kill them again. There were no other options." When Mitchelle was also in court, she also repeated to the judge that she felt no remorse over her action. She stated, "I have no remorse for what they did to my son. There are no excuse for rape." Prosecutor Karen Goldford stated that they found no evidence of rape, and Michelle's oldest child, Gabby, said there was no concrete evidence that either of the children sexually assaulted her younger brother. "My mom became obsessed with this crazy notion that my siblings had sexually assaulted our youngest brother, and she started basically interrogating the youngest," Gabby Blair said in a statement on January 2023. Gabby claimed that her youngest brother only told Mitchelle about the alleged sexual assault after incessant questions because he didn't know any better. "My mom was a ticking time bomb," Gabby stated. "She always had her fuse lit, so anything, the slightest tap, would set her off." In June 2015, Mitchelle Blair pleaded guilty to 1 count of first-degree premeditated murder and 1 count of felony murder. She is now serving a life sentence at the Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Yassulit, Michigan, without the possibility of parole. Gabby Blair and her younger brother went to live with their great-aunt after their mother's conviction. They both went back to school, and the young boy was eventually adopted. They had since been in therapy to deal with the trauma and abuse they faced at the hands of their mother. Gabby stated, "I was afraid to even walk by the freezer. Every time I came downstairs to eat breakfast or to play a video game, I had to walk right past the freezer," Gabby recalled. "But there was nowhere else that my mom would hide the bodies. They were cooped up in a freezer like meat." Mitchelle continued to torture Gabby and her younger brother even after the death of Stephen and Stoney. Gabby said she was repeatedly burned with a curling iron and beaten with a wooden plank, and that she was constantly terrified she would become the next body in the freezer. "I made sure to watch what I said around my mother," Gabby stated. "I already knew that one misstep and this is where I'll end up. I'm happy I was able to make it out alive. My prayers and condolences goes out to Mitchelle Blair, two remaining children. May they find peace and a loving future ahead of themselves. May Stoney and Stephen rest in peace. Until next time on the Meaningful Talk Crime Doc, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you guys later in the comment section."